Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. You can get me the drum. You can play the kartos.
I'll play the drum.
Get his white drum from the closet. The clicking drum. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padavidika-acārya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acārya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padavidika-acārya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacārya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 4th day of July, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 19, a description of the island of Jambudvip, text number 21. Etad eva hideva gayanti aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham sviduta swayam hari yar janmalabdham nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha etadeva hi deva gayanti aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham svaduta swayam hari Yar janmalabdham nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham sudata swayam harihi Yar janmalabdham nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham sudata swayam harihi Yar janmalabdham nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha etadeva hi deva gayanti aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham sudata swayam harihi ya janmalabdham nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha etadeva hi deva gayanti aho amisham kamakari shobhanam prasanna esham sudata swayam harihi Yalan jandam nrishu Bhārata-varṣa mukunda sevāupahikam spriha hinaha Aho hamisham kramakadi shobhanam. Pasanna esham sudata swayam harihi. Jaya janma labdham nishu bharatajire. Mukunda sevao pahikang spihahinaha. Ladies? Aho amisham kamakari shobhanam. Pasanna esham suduta swayam hari. Jaya janma labdham nishu bharatajire. Mukunda sevao pahikang spihahinaha. Anyone on Zoom?
Aho amisham kimakari shobhanam.
Aho hamisham kramakadi shobhanam.
Prasanna esham spiruta swayam harihi.
Pasanna esham sudata swayam harihi.
Yar janma labdham nishubharatajire.
Yar janma labdham nishubharatajire.
Mukunda sevao paikam sprihahinaha.
Mukunda sevao pahikang spihahinaha. Etat, this. Eva, indeed. He, certainly. Devaha, all the demigods. Gayanti, chant. Aho, oh. Amisham, of these inhabitants of Bhārata-varṣa. Kim, what? Akari, what's done. Shobhanam, pious, beautiful activities. Prasannaha, pleased. Esham, upon them. Svit, or. Uta, it is said. Swayam, personally. Harihi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yai, by whom? Janma, birth. Labdham, obtained. Nrishu, in human society. Bhārata-ajire, in the courtyard of Bhārata-varṣa. Mukunda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can offer liberation. Seva aupahikam, which is the means of serving. Spiha, desire. He, indeed. Naha, our. Translation. Since the human form of life is the sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in the land of Bhārata-varṣa. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bhārata-varṣa to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged there. Purport. These facts are further explained in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 941. Bhārata bhumite hoilad manusha janmajar dhamma sarta kare kara para upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bhārata-varṣa, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. There are many facilities in India, Bhārata-varṣa, for executing devotional service. In Bhārata-varṣa, all the ācāryas contributed their experience, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally appeared in order to teach the people of Bhārata-varṣa how to progress in spiritual life and be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. From all points of view, Bhārata-varṣa is the special land where one can very easily understand the process of devotional service and adopt it to make his life successful. If one makes his life successful in devotional service and then preaches devotional service in other parts of the world, people throughout the world will actually benefit. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I'd like to read the previous translation, where there's a more general explanation of how one is fortunate in this world and can take up devotional service. In this verse, which is prose, it's not actually a verse. After many, many births, when the results of one's pious activities mature, one gets an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. Then one is able to cut the knot of bondage to ignorance, which bound him because of varied fruit of activities. As a result of associating with devotees, one gradually renders service to Lord Vasudeva, who is transcendental, free from attachment to the material world, beyond the mind and words, and independent of everything else. That Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, is the real path of liberation. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So in this verse I just read, there's the general principle explained by the demigods here. And that doesn't require wherever one is born. And we can see that although this verse is speaking about the verse of the day is speaking about how glorious it is to be born as a human being in Bhārata-varṣa in India, because there's so much facility and so much culture there that can enable one to take up devotional service. And they say they must have executed so many pious acts in the past and so forth to take birth there. But the fact is that in the modern age, with Lord Chaitanya's advent and his prediction that his name would be heard all over the world, and everyone since Lord Chaitanya taking up that motto and trying his best to spread the Hare Krishna mantra and the science of Bhakti Yoga within India at least. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it doesn't just mean India, at least as Priti Biti, it means all the world. And so he, as we know, he sent his representatives to the UK, all backing. There was a book that was written especially for that. He encouraged it. This is the 2-volume biography of Lord Chaitanya by Dr. Sanyal. And it was very nicely produced, and then he supported it with so much Lakshmi. And that was a valiant effort, but not really much came of it. So that order was still there, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Srila Prabhupada when he was still Abhay Charan Dey, he and his friend, you're young men, why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world? Prabhupada was just getting up and getting ready to sit down, and wow, this is quite a challenge. And Prabhupada is that he at that time he was still a follower of Gandhi. And he was saying, we're a dependent country. Nobody's going to listen to us. And Bhakti says, this is spreading Krishna consciousness is so urgent, they cannot wait for independence. So Prabhupada famously took up that task. And at age 68, he was 68, got on the boat, turned 69. There was Janmashtami on the boat, you remember? On Jaladhura, Prabhupada's appearance day. And heroically, courageously, amazingly, he spread Krishna consciousness to the Western world. And through genius, he knew that if he can get some Westerners really enlivened and have this world Sankirtan party, come back to India, and the Indians would be shocked and depressed, and they would begin to take the message more seriously. And that's exactly what happened. I just want to point out to you, I've just been reading the biography of Yamuna Devi. Have you seen that? Oh. I got to the part of their engagement in Surat, which is just absolutely amazing. I'll be honest with you, tears were flowing from my eyes when I was reading that's how they were greeted in Surat. And she says in there that there's a few minutes of video of it. which I'd never seen, I never heard of. I remember reading it when I read this last time. So what do you do when you hear this on video? Go to YouTube, right? You key in Surat Hare Krishna. And there it was, 15 minutes of that party going through the town of Surat, showing Prabhupada and everything. Just absolutely ecstatic. And now that part, Gujarat, was very, very devotional. The whole town, the whole city, really is a big city, was full of devotees. Followers of Vallabhacharya. We were very close to the same thing, you know. And they greeted the devotees just like you know, like they were, like representatives of Lord Chaitanya. And everywhere they went, they were getting garlands, so many garlands, they had to take them off and give them out, you know. It was just a wonderful account. And so, yes, India is certainly the most fertile ground. And we see that since Prabhupada went back there and the Bombay Temple was opened and so many things, and the Vrindavan Temple and Mayapur was developed. And I don't know what percentage it is. Is it half the devotees in ISKCON are there or more? You know, it's just amazing. But ISKCON is also flourishing in different parts of the world. America, Russia, all over the place. So Bhārata-varṣa, in the larger sense, is the whole earth. And really what matters is, because don't you get a feeling that, you know, with the advent of the internet and all this, especially we had this pandemic and we couldn't travel, but then there's the Zoom calls and you can actually have, you know, the same, is that with the advent of this communications, that geography doesn't matter as much. That, yes, certainly India is always the most fertile place for it, but for spreading Krishna consciousness. But depending on how eager certain persons are in any part of the world, the books are going out everywhere by the tens of millions, and there's so many websites and so many places you can have the association even in your own home, you know, as we learned during the pandemic. So the real essence of it is in the previous verse, where it said that by great fortune one gets the association of a pure devotee. That's really what counts. And not only the association, but the receptivity to the message. That's the key. And so much of what we do is trying to bring people into contact with Srila Prabhupada through his books, through his devotees, through the message, and to give them the gifts that Srila Prabhupada has given us. The holy name, the knowledge, the association, prasadam, all of these, the festivals, everything, every means by which Krishna has reached out in order to try to attract these fallen souls of this Kali Yuga to him. Especially coming as himself, as Lord Chaitanya, and giving this most accessible and easiest process. Chant Hare Krishna, dance, and take prasadam. And then hear the philosophy. And this is actually the essence of the process of devotional service that Prabhupada gave, and it still works. It'll work from here to eternity, because it's coming straight from Goloka Vrindavan. So I wanted to share with you one section from the 11th canto that came to mind with this, because this is the last of the teachings of the 9 Yogendras. This is 11th canto, 5th chapter, and I'm going to read from 11.536. And this is a verse. Now, this teaching of the last Yogendra here includes the famous verse, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam. We can all chant together. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam, Sango Pangasta Parshadam, Yagyar Sangitanam Praya, Yajanti Hisameda Saha. That this is a description. The question was from King Nimi, what are the incarnations? How do they appear in each yuga? And so this is obviously the verse about the incarnation appearing in our yuga, in Kali Yuga, and it's all about Lord Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam, that has two meanings. He belongs to the Varna, to the category of Krishna, and those syllables, Varnas, he's always chanting Krishna, 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 Krishna. Trisha Krishnam, but his complexion is akrishnam. It's not blackish like Krishna's, but it means it's golden, yellow golden. And he appears not alone, but Saanga, Upaanga, and Astra, and Parshadam. So his angas are his immediate limbs, like Nityananda, Advaita, Panchatattva. And the Upaangas are the wider category of devotees. He has Astra. But here we see, Lord Chaitanya, sometimes they put some kartals in their hands, but they're not chakras, they're just kartals. So what weapons does he use? What is the Astra? The holy name, and Jiva Goswami points out, and his beauty also. In this way he disarms, just like with the Prakashananda Saraswati, by his effulgence and his beauty, then they became, oh, he must be Narayan, so they wanted to hear from him. And so many other ways. So he's got the holy names. He doesn't kill anybody. This came up with the Jagai Mare pastime, where he was so angry that they attacked Nityananda and drawn blood, and then he was ready to attack again. So he came. When he heard, he immediately came. He was running at his chakra there, and they were paralyzed and frightened, and they bowed down. And so Nityananda says, no, stop, First of all, Jagai, stop Marai from attacking me again. So he should get your special mercy. So, very good. Embraced him, gave him prema bhakti. And Marai said, can I get the same blessing? No. You attacked Nityananda, you have to get his mercy. So, okay, So by Nityananda's influence, Lord Nityananda's influence, Lord Chaitanya forgave them, provided that they gave up all of their nefarious activities, which is really what anyone has to do when they get initiation, right? You take these 4 regular principles, it's just, I vow to abstain from them, reject them. So, and then they became great devotees, and Lord Chaitanya said, don't think of them in terms of their previous activity. Don't think of them, they're now, part of our Sangha, and I should be respected as a high devotee, very, very advanced. And that's also in this series of verses. That's near the last one. Swapada moolam bhajadak priyasya chaktanya bhava sahari padesha vikarma yakcho patitam katanchid dhunoti sarvamedi sannivishta. This is like an expansion of Abhichet-Suraracharo verse in the Bhagavad Gita. One who has thus given up all other engagement and has taken full shelter at the lotus feet of Hari is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Lord, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reaction to such sin. The word dunoti means cleanse, the cleansing. So this is, Lord Chaitanya's mercy and Krishna's mercy also, is that it's not like, okay, you made a mistake, you broke the regular principles, 10,000 years, you go down to the ant body and come up. No, if you're still engaged and it was something that you're not making a practice of, and especially that you're not taking advantage of the holy name and says, you chant the holy name one time, you get rid of all the sins, okay, I can do whatever I want during the day and the evening, I'll chant Hare Krishna. Now, Prabhupada said this is the greatest offense against the holy name. And what will happen is that you'll forget about chanting the holy name. Because we're only chanting by Krishna's mercy. We should remember that. We're given the inspiration, the time, the inclination, and to chant by the Lord in the heart. He's seeing there's some sincerity there. So that can be taken away. So, but the verses I want to especially focus on was this one, which appears at 2 or 3 verses after Krishna Varnam. Kaling sabhaji antyaya guna gyasara bhaginaha yatra sankitane naiva sarva swarto bilabhyate. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship this Kali Yuga, because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name. So this, I'm always reminded of this. It's like that line in the Bible: the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So we're kind of last. Here we are in the Kali Yuga, and without, Srila Prabhupada's reaching out and spreading we'd be condemned. There's no chance. And we can see before the whole, I was there, the child of the 60s, and there was this, the summer of love, the flower power, the LSD, But what happened to it? It was a little blip of hope, and rebellion. And it opened the door, Krishna said, Prabhupada, right at that time, when you know, George Harrison and so forth, they were opening little doors to the east. People were getting interested in taking LSD and thinking, seeing God, what they thought was God. And so there was all this interest, and it hadn't become nasty yet. So the summer, the perfect 1967, just before the Summer of Love, Prabhupada came to San Francisco, and there was so much receptivity there. And the movement really took root. And then, of course, he went back to New York, we got sick, went to India. But right, that year or the next year, I was part of the 60s. I drove across the country in our stolen car. Anyway, I didn't steal it. I learned about that halfway across. What? With my friend. I'm driving, under the speed limit. So he came. Anyway, it was quite. We got to Reno, and I had cultivated this desire when I was growing up. I was a little gambler. I was gambling a little bit. So I wanted to go. So I got up early in the morning. I went to one of the casinos. Nobody's there in the morning except there was one person at the craps table. So, okay, I got that out of my system. Lost $10, which was a lot at that time. Came back. The car was gone. The police had seen, we were carrying 2 runaways in the back of the car, and they found them, and they said, "Oh, you're underage, we're sending you back to your mother." Meanwhile, they impounded the car we were in. Said, "Oh, great, we had some marijuana in the glove compartment. That's all. I'm going to spend the next 20 years in Reno." So I'm walking up and down chanting Hare Krishna. No, I didn't know about Hare Krishna. I'm just, oh God. By Krishna's grace, they didn't find it, or if they found it, it was so little they said, forget it, and we got the car back, and I proceeded toward San Francisco. under the speed limit. Huh? No, it was a sedan. Very nice car. Anyway, so I get there, but I'm a year late. This is 1968, and by the time I get to 68, it had already, the Summer of Love was way over. There was a concert called Altamont, and it was a turning point. And it was a concert, and by that time people were taking amphetamines. They weren't just smoking dope and there was a knife fight, and someone had got killed there, and it was like a whole thing, and the whole mood of the Summer of Love was over. So that's when I came, and walked in the Haight-Ashbury and so. But the point, it was a very ephemeral. But Prabhupada already planted the seed. The temple was there, in Haight-Ashbury. I didn't even know about Hare Krishnas. I didn't see it. And the devotees were there, Yamuna and the Sikhs. Then they went to Montreal, got trained up, went to London, and met the Beatles, and the whole thing exploded. So just by Prabhupada's taking advantage, by Krishna sending Prabhupada at that time, the seed was planted in the West. And some devotees were very, very sincere, and the adventures, how the movement grew, so you can see the miracles. So that's the value of this age, is that because of Lord Chaitanya's mercy and his spreading Krishna consciousness and doing what he did, and teaching and starting the sampradaya with the teachings of Lord to Rupa Goswami and others, we have everything we have. We have Prabhupada, we have the Bhagavatam with the commentaries by the Goswamis that Prabhupada relied on, and we have the process of devotional service, and now it's developed into so many temples and everywhere. So just by the Sankirtan movement. So everyone can be fortunate in this age. The whole idea of this Krishna conscious movement is to be thankful and express our gratitude. What do we say? Samsara davanadadita loka tranaya. That the spiritual master is the quality of this cloud of mercy, and those of us who are burning in the fire of birth and death, samsara davana, literally means the forest fire of samsara, and he's tranaya. He's delivering them by pouring down all of these things that we relish every day. The holy name, the Sankirtan movement, the books, the prasadam, the deities, the association, the temples, everything. So that's all that we can take, and then that burning fire of birth and death and anxiety can be extinguished, and but we shouldn't leave it at that. Said, oh, we've been given the chance. We're feeling it. We're feeling, the benefits of being Krishna conscious. Even in this crazy time, there's so much violence and confusion and threat. But still, you can feel that protection from Krishna and that blessing of the holy name and everything else. So we have a responsibility to give it out to others. This is really what's most pleasing to Krishna, as he says right in the Bhagavad Gita. And the whole sampradaya is pleased by that, even just a little effort. So now we have so much facility for taking advantage of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the teachings of our whole sampradaya, the process, and so much facility for reaching out and contacting others. And so, of course, the primary means always will be this book distribution. Srila Prabhupada has emphasized it, and we heard so many stories. It's so nice to have these so many book distributors here. Vijay Prabhu is about ready to produce his book. Is it on the boat yet, or is it being printed? I mean, this book has been just now coming for 10 years. I worked on it about 12 years ago. And so, but it's full of all these amazing stories. That's not the only thing it has, but it has so much. Shivaram Swami telling how he was distributing books in, I think, Montreal or Toronto. Incredible, accounts, and others, and so many others. So they show the miracle. We know the power, the energy that Lord Chaitanya is always ready to bestow on us, of being able to attract souls to check out, this knowledge in the form of the books. And as soon as you open the books, it doesn't matter what languages it is. Prabhupada spoke English and Bengali and Hindi and Sanskrit, but it may be Russian, it may be Spanish, it may be Chinese, whatever it is. They're still getting Prabhupada's association. And that was the first verse I read the translation. Is that by getting that association, people don't realize that, the value of it right away. Eventually, hopefully they do. But that it just makes their life auspicious. So, so many lifetimes, so many different forms and bodies, so much suffering. And here's the first a chance to end all of it and to really enter into the house of Bhakti, Prabhupada says, through the threshold of the house of Bhakti. So that this will always be an essential aspect of the Krishna consciousness movement, is printing and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. And here we're reading here. This is 11th canto. This wasn't literally written by Prabhupada, but the purports are following in Srila Prabhupada's words, often quoting. The word Arya has been defined by Srila Prabhupada as one who is advancing spiritually. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, leaving this battlefield is an-Aryan. It's not this is not Aryan. And it's one who knows spiritual values and is willing to propagate them. Is really what Aryan is all about. In the purport there, Prabhupada says that the one who is an Aryan knows the spiritual values and thus establishes a spiritual civilization built on spiritual values. So Aryan doesn't necessarily mean, taking birth. It means the character. And we know that Krishna consciousness, you really take a new birth. That's where we get a new name, I mean, what is this body? It's just a sheath. It's just some clothes we wear for a short time. What really counts is your consciousness and your willingness to transform it into pure Krishna consciousness. And we've been given the means. So we have all these advantages. I love to quote this verse. Prabhupada would often quote, Labdva sudurlamamidam bahusam bhavante manushyam artadamanityam apiya dhira turnam yateta napate danumrityavad nikshe saya vishaya kalusarvatakshyat. This is a great call to humanity. It says, all you human beings, you've gotten this human life after many, many births. Sudurlabham, this is very rare. Sudurlabham, to get it. Just think there's a handful of us, basically, in 7 billion. Big deal. How much is that compared to the insects and the plants and all these? They're all as much souls as we are. So here we are at the pinnacle of evolution, but so don't waste it. Manusham, artadam. What's so special about this human life? That only in this form can you actually achieve your svarta, the goal of the soul, the apotheosis. Krishna consciousness, getting out of this trap of samsara and returning back home, back to Godhead. This is your chance. So there he says, turnam, a very important word. Don't waste any time. Immediately. Turnam yateta, strive. It's going to take striving. It's going to take an effort because we're so conditioned. All our habits are contrary to this. We're fully immersed in our material entanglement. But we've been given the process. It's so powerful that with some sincere effort, vavasayatmaka buddhi, determination, we can actually, even in this one lifetime, transform our consciousness and go back to Godhead. So this verse is saying, turnam yateta napateta, as long as you haven't died already, as long as you still have your wits about you and you have your facilities. Napatet anumritya yavat is a very telling word. Anumrityu. Mrityu is always following you, right on your shoulder. So you don't know how much time we have. So therefore, immediately strive as hard as you can. For what? Nikshayasa. For the ultimate good. This comes up in the Gita with Arjun's surrender verse. It's always going to Shreyas versus Prayas. And not just Shreya, but Nikshaya, the ultimate good we can have, which is complete eradication of our attachment to this material world, our attachments to this material world, which is gross and subtle, which are keeping us bound here. And transference of that attachment to Krishna through the medium of pure devotees, the associates. Pasangam madaram bhasham, pasangam madaram atmana kabayo viduhu, sayeshu sadhashukato moksha dvaram Bhāratam. This is like the first verse of Kapila Dev's instructions to his mother. So she says, those who are wise know very well what I put into a little verse. Mundane attraction keeps us bound to birth and death infernal. But love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. Attraction, what does it say? Shri Guru Charana Rate Ese Uttamagati. That's the other song we sing, the same idea. Shri Guru Charana Rati, love, attraction, affection for the lotus feet of the Guru, is the best way, Uttamagati. Uttamagati, it's very interesting, this word gati, which appears also at the end of the Gurvashtaka, is used to mean the goal or the means to attain the goal, isn't it? This is a part of the feature of Sanskrit, that you'll have words that mean something also come to mean that which you can attain that something. And so this word gati, why is that? Because as soon as you have some attraction and affection for the Guru, you may be so ignorant, but you want to please him. How do they want to be pleased? Listen to me. Listen. Hear what I have to say. Take it into your heart and act on it. That's the best way to please the Guru. So this is that book, Yamuna's book, is perfectly about that. She was so attracted to Srila Prabhupada, and she was so ready to do any service that he asked. I mean, it's inconceivable of 6, young devotees, 3 couples and a little baby, going to London, no place to live, somehow we'll get this, and they were given place here and there, and eventually Shyamasundar, amazingly. The story is there, I think, in the when the sun shines. The devotee Ranchor wrote another book about that, London, about England opening up. How, the way I remember it, they had met the Hell's Angels because the temple was nearby, the temple, and there wasn't always a very nice relationship there. But eventually, by feeding them mostly, they became favorable. So one of these Hell's Angels went to England expecting that he had an appointment to see the Beatles. That was the way he presented to Shyamasundar. So Shyamasundar, they knew him from San Francisco. He said, well, can I tag along? He said, sure. Because he had a ticket into the inner sanctum or something. So he goes there. Do you remember? Was that way? No, wasn't it? Oh, okay. Okay, so that's...
So they had a connection with the Beatles, and Roxoli was visiting London, and then Chandra tagged along.
All right, so it wasn't the Hells Angels. Yeah, but it was just like, you know, Krishna's arrangement, you know. So he tagged along, and they waited in the outer room there, and the Beatles didn't really want to, you know, meet all these people, so they kind of, most of them rushed through, and then George Harrison comes out, and he sees Shyama dressed as a devotee, you know. I've been trying to contact you people forever, you know. He goes straight for him, and then that's the connection, and from there the whole thing explodes. And then comes the recordings, the chantings. He loved the way Yamuna sings, "I'll make you a rock star." He said, no, I'm staying with Prabhupada. It was a fabulous story. Anyway, the whole thing is, you can just see Krishna's hand in it. You know, they were so sincere in performing these austerities, living here, you know, and then boom, they get this success. And then the Bury place, and then staying with Tittenhurst and the whole thing. It's an amazing saga. So that's the way Krishna works. You know, he worked that way with Prabhupada. You know, he's gonna, somehow or other he's got to, you know, get to America. He has no money to, you know, get on a plane. That's inconceivable. So he says, "Oh, this is Sumati Maharaji." He says, "No, you know, Swamiji, you're too old. You're going to die there. I'm not going to give you a ticket." So Prabhupada had to sit in. Right, he was just like sitting outside her office chanting. There's a picture of him sitting. And her secretary said, "Oh, he's still here." You know, I said, "Okay, bring him back." So he said, "Okay," she gave him a ticket. The whole thing is such a wonderful, and it's great to read those things because it shows how, even in our own lives, if we try and we persevere and we pray, then miracles happen. Even in our own lives, our own service, we all have, you know, we're on a path here, and how do we move forward on it? So that's, you know, I wanted to share with you. So, and then there's one other verse here, the next verse, and I'll end with this. Na yatak paramo labho dehinam brahmitamiha yato vindeta paramam shantim nashyati sangshuti. And you see from these verses how Lord Chaitanya, he came, and the Bhagavatam, he came to fulfill the Bhagavatam and preach it. Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for embodied souls forced to wander throughout the material world than the Supreme Lord's Sankirtan movement, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death. You can see how, you know, the essential. What is that? There's a verse about Lord Chaitanya's teachings, one of these summary verses. You know this one. Ācāryas Bhagavan Rajesha Tanayas Taddhama Vrindavanam Ramyakācharupāsana Bhattavadu Bhageniya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavate Pramanamamalam Pema Pumato Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamatam Tatradana Paraha. Thank you. So this verse has a progression. It's in the Chaitanya Manjusha, which is a series of verses about commentary on the Bhagavatam. Okay. So here's the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in essence. First of all, one should worship Bhagavan. Then the question is, well, which Bhagavan? There's so many verses. For Jai the son of the king of Braja, in other words, Krishna in Vrindavan. And one should equally worship Vrindavan, which is sacred. How? Ramya Kachadupasana Vadu Vageniya Kalpita. In the same way that the gopis, the wives of the cowherd men, worship. That's the highest method. Oh yeah? Well, what's the evidence for all this? Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Avalam. That is the pristine and supreme evidence, pramana. Pramana is those books that we should take as evidence for what to do and what not to do. And the goal of it all? Prema Pamato Mahan. The love of Krishna is the supreme goal of all life. These are the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This is what he taught, and I don't know anything beyond this. I don't want to hear. It's a great verse. So that's he came, Lord Chaitanya, this is avatar, and it shows here that there's no higher possible gain than those who are wandering in this world than the Sankirtan system. Vindeta paramam shantim nashyati sangsati. So it's practical. We all experienced it. It just takes, but it has to be engaged in with a pure heart, meaning that, you know, we're not just going through the motions. We actually fully believe that this is the process for devotional service in this age, especially, and we experience the benefits of it. occasionally I'm finding I'm doing my laundry and there's a little party going down. Hare Krishna. It's Saturday night. Encountered it several times. So it's still going on, and it's the way, all of these books lead to that, and everything leads to that someone seriously taking up the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, both in japa and in sankirtan, and that is the message for today. We're fortunate; we've taken birth on this earth at the time when this Hare Krishna movement is going on. We should take full advantage of it and take as many people back to Godhead with us as possible. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Any questions or comments? Yes, please. Mike, take the mic. Okay, I'm sure there is. You have to hold it till the light turns on.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. A couple of reflections that I was having is, I was born in India, but I always reflect on the fact that it's only because I'm here in America that I probably became a devotee. My gratitude for Srila Prabhupada is quite, infinite. And I'm thinking, even though, as you said, the time was right, if Srila Prabhupada had come, it didn't matter how right the time was.
No, of course.
Right? So that whole fact that Srila Prabhupada, his ultimate mercy.
Absolutely.
My in-laws are old. And I know how difficult it is at that age. And for him to come across that ocean on a boat, inconceivable. Third thing I was thinking about was you're speaking about Shivarama Swami and the association of a devotee. I think it's in one of the Vyasa Pujas that Shivarama Swami translates a letter that he received from a girl who... Do you want to tell it?
No.
Do you want me? I don't know if I should say. Well, so it's a letter.
What's country? Is it Hungary?
Hungary. Yeah. So it's a letter from a girl who says, I want to tell you about my grandmother. Yeah. And so she had actually gotten, the girl had gotten a book from one of the, programs that goes around. Yeah. And she had it in her room, in her shelf. And they're a very devout, Catholic family, maybe Christian family. And they all live in the same, they kind of live together. And I guess her mother found this book and she was really upset. Why do you have this book? You shouldn't have this book. And she took it from her. And, the girl hadn't even read it. Yeah. Turns out the grandmother got it.
I think it was in SSR, right? Yeah, in Hungarian.
Yeah, and she started reading it, and the next thing you know, she's converted the whole family. They've all become vegetarians. They've never been to a temple. They've never seen devotees. It's only one book that the grandma got. The granddaughter didn't even read it. Grandmother got the book. She converted the whole family, made them all vegetarians, made them all, and she started quoting. Before she used to say, well, Jesus says. Well, now she says, well, what Prabhupada says. And she goes around. And so the young girl says, I want to meet Srila Prabhupada. I want to meet who this person is that's changed my grandmother's life and our life. And obviously, Srila Prabhupada was not on the planet at that time, but he was, right, in his books. And so just, to reinforce and support the comment
that's one of the most amazing
about
stories.
This,
if I remember, it says she became a terror.
Yeah, that's what she called. She said she became a terror.
Because
grandmother
wherever
was a terror.
she went,
she was reaching everywhere. So, yes to everything you said, basically.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we have. Thank you for that.
My experience with that letter is you have to be careful where you read it, because every time I've had that, I've been in a room where that letter is read out loud. Everyone in the room starts bawling.
Really?
Every time. It's like, I've heard it once in Mayapur during my Bhakti Shastri. We were doing we were taking a Srila Prabhupada course. Yeah. And one devotee read that. Everyone in the room was crying. And then it was read at a Sacramento Disappearance Festival of Srila Prabhupada this past year. I was there. And Shankarananda Prabhu read it, and he had to stop halfway through, and his wife had to finish it.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's interesting about that letter is that she talks about how her grandmother is speaking with Srila Prabhupada's picture, and she says, I want to go to Krishna Valley so I can see God before I die. Like such faith. And then Shiva Ram Maharaj says at the end of it, because he translates the letter, but then he gives his own offering to Prabhupada, and he says, what kind of mercy is this that you're giving Srila Prabhupada? And how many people have been touched in this way? Because that's like only one account, and that's something that's been recorded. But how many of these stories are taking place? I think that's what's so humbling about it, is that it's just a normal person. It's just an everyday average person that happened to get a book, and then Prabhupada completely transformed them. Yeah, and you can just imagine how you can probably how enlivening this is for the book distributors. That somehow or other, let me go out there. There may be some more people out there. By the way, I can't resist. I hope you don't mind. Devotional is number 6 in the world. Book distributors. Right here. He's sitting next to you. For 1 month.
Huh?
For 1 month.
For the last month. So, next month you'll be 5th. It's like this temple is 4th in the country. And we heard about your exploits. Or that you and who was it? The other 2 Indians? Yeah, Danavari. Yeah, Danavari, yeah. I mean, we had, so we're just right behind Ypsilanti. We can move up.
Ypsilanti's only one book distributor.
Oh, the whole thing is Parameshwar? Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, anything else locally, or should we go to Zoom? Oh, Raj. Okay, bookends. Vineet.
Prabhuji, you were saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy comes through his holy name, and you also said that Jiva Goswami says through his beauty. So can you elaborate how we should approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his beauty?
Okay, well, what I said, which I think I'm quoting correctly, is because that verse is Sango Pangasta Parshadam. In other words, he doesn't come alone, but he comes with his angas, sa'anga, his upa-angas, a little wider circle of devotees, and the astra, which is the weapons. So the weapons, he doesn't kill anybody, but with the weapon of the holy name, he kills the demonic mentality in the heart. And also with his beauty, there's a word in English called disarm. Now of course it's disarmament, literally, but you can disarm someone by your friendship, by your smile. In other words, they may come with a kind of a combative attitude, but they can be disarmed. Just like you offer them some prasadam, by your activity. So his Lord Chaitanya's beauty, and he was extremely beautiful, would disarm, especially I think in terms of the Mayavadis, and other people he would encounter, is that he would often be appear very, very humble. Like with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Well, my spiritual master told me I'm not eligible to hear the Vedanta Sutra, that I should just chant the holy name, and he gave that whole story. So Sarvabhauma was saying, well, would you like to hear from me? I didn't say I'm expert, but he was. He said, sure, I'll hear. So he heard. He didn't say anything. There's that famous painting. It says, he's here. So at the end of 7 days, I think it was, that he said, well, you're not asking any questions. Don't you understand? He says, I understand the Vedanta Sutra. The Sutra is perfectly well, but your explanation of like a big cloud is obscuring it. So, okay, well, maybe you can say. So then he revealed and he spoke, and it was, So and eventually, I think, was it Sarvabhauma saw the Sadbhuja? He revealed his, mercy to him. So Lord Chaitanya's, it was attractive in all ways, and it's described that he had a beautiful golden form, his arms leaning down to his. There's a famous verse I'll tell you one. It's in the, you know this one. It appears in the beginning of 2 chapters in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Ajanulambita bhajo kanagavadato sankirtanaya pitado kamalaya taksho vishvam barodhu dabaro yugadharma paro bhande jagat priyakaro karunavataro. It describes Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitananda. So they're very beautiful. Their arms they reach down to their knees. They have these beautiful broad chests and complexion, smile, everything like that. So that's one of the ways in which someone is stunned, and while that stunning is going on, you know, they're ready to hear the holy name and to bow down. And, because beauty is also a very important power that, you know, Krishna has and so forth. So that's one understanding of it. And the holy names, of course, are weapons, because if one hears it and chants, then his sinful reactions will get cut to pieces, you know, and one becomes attracted and didn't realize how it happened, but now I'm Hare Krishna. Oh, you have a little addendum to that? Where is it? Oh, we have to. And then Raj, and then we'll end with someone on Zoom. I wonder who it could be.
Also, just by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat, you'll naturally hear about Lord Chaitanya, you know, going out in Sankirtan and tears flowing from his eyes and devotees becoming soaked in those tears, and hearing all these things, you know, you hear it over and over and over again, and then you're, you know, chanting the holy names, and soon when it's just a part of your regular day practice, you know, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 50 years, when you chant, what takes place is you're not thinking of, you know, all your previous activities. You're thinking of all these pastimes you've been reading about, and the holy name is revealing them. Yeah,
the beauty comes in various ways. Just like the beauty of the verses of the writings of Rupa Goswami and the others, you know, that's also attractive. The aesthetic beauty of the Sanskrit appears like. I shared, you know, some of the Jaya Jaya Vamshi Vaja Bishara Shara Sanati Pati Bhavaka Bhavaka Tadochana Sancha. Now each one of those words is describing Krishna. This is from the Govinda Virodavali. You can't chant that and understand it and not be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. It's just okay, Raj, you're on. And then our mystery guest on Zoom.
Thank you for the talk. I enjoyed it. My comment is more from yesterday, if you don't mind me sharing real quickly.
Go ahead.
The speaker in the morning said something about a monk here or somewhere else had a watch. He made a joke that could stop time. Caught my attention to that statue over there. There's
the Buddha.
Yes. There's people called the Anunnaki, or the winged serpents that come from the sky. It's all throughout human history. They also have a certain watch, and they look a lot like that individual right there, with the eagle skull, the wing feathers, and they have the myth that they can stop time, move around, give humanity wisdom and stuff like that. So I thought I'd share it for that sake. And at the evening speak, someone mentioned the Hadron Collider yesterday.
What do they call? Oh, the
Hadron Collider. So tomorrow, July 5th, they are planning to reactivate it. The people that created the Hadron Collider, they worship Lord Shiva. They have a giant deity of him when they did the ceremony for that. And they say when they open it up, dimensions, time travels in the last 10 years. When they opened it, a lot of things messed up. So me personally, but I thought I'd share it. Best case scenario when we're praying and having our meditative state, to think about that and get the most positive timeline coming out of it. Because they say from the spiritual level and material level, when they do activate it tomorrow, there are going to be certain scenarios, different switches.
Okay. Time may stop.
Yeah.
Well, if you really want to stop time, got to go to the local Vrindavan. Not a second passes away.
Thank you.
Okay, on Zoom?
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. My question is, why is it that spiritual advancement is difficult for the ones who are not austere?
Okay. Krishna consciousness 101. Okay, why is spiritual advancement not difficult for those who are not austere? Because in spiritual advancement means that you're trying to turn your consciousness and your desires and your attraction and your attachments from matter to spirit. It's naturally, our natural position is to be fully Krishna conscious and cavorting in Goloka Vrindavan. But somehow we lost that. And by turning away from Krishna and allowing our consciousness and our mind and our attraction to be absorbed in the dualities of this world. And it's been going on for millions and millions of births and years. So the process of sadhana bhakti is systematically turning our consciousness and our attraction to Krishna. Now we're all in a conditioned state. That means our senses, mind, are saturated with the modes of nature, and we're habituated to trying to enjoy various combinations of matter. So the process of devotional service means that we have to withdraw that, stop, first the yama, stop engaging in these things and start engaging in Krishna consciousness. And so, but because we're conditioned, we're habituated. So that austerity is difficult at first to do that. But the Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that if you try a little bit, you soon get the higher taste. And therefore, what was an austerity before, giving up meat eating, I mean, people are attracted to that, becomes, oh, are you kidding? I wouldn't think of doing that in a million years now. And the same thing holds for everything else. So, but if you're not austere, then you're trying to mix the two, and they don't mix. It's like trying to go in two directions at once. You're feeding your obsession and attraction to the material energy while trying to go in the other direction, attracted to Krishna. And Krishna doesn't respond to that, You're not going to get the mercy that way. And therefore, if you don't get the mercy, then your obsessions will remain and you won't make any advancement. You see, you'll come to the point. I spoke to one old devotee I keep in touch with, and he met a third devotee that we both knew. And he was completely, not in devotional clothes. He wasn't chanting. I said, well, how you doing? He says, well, the process didn't work for me. The process won't work for you unless you surrender and you undergo the austerities to get onto the platform of steadiness where you can go on. So it's scientific, actually. And so that's why without these minimal austerities compared to what we read of, the great yogis, but there are austerities, we can't make any advancement. We can't please Krishna. We won't get the mercy. And Prabhupada insisted, he's not going to be like the others. Said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Just, come. I'll give you a mantra and give me $40. Now it's $4,000. Prabhupada wasn't a cheater like that. So that's why austerity is necessary. Tapo divyam, putukayena satvam shuddhya bhusokim. Rishabdev tells the essential verse about austerity is that don't be like the stool-eating hogs and waste your life in sense gratification to get everybody's attention. Rather, perform divine austerity, not this exaggerated austerity for material powers like Aranyakashipu, but prescribed austerity, purify your being, your consciousness, by which you become eligible to enjoy unending, unlimited happiness. So what's the intelligent person going to do? Obviously give it a go, give it a try, which is what we're doing. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, as usual, better than okay. Very helpful, outstanding answer to my question, Dravida Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Sorry I went on too long tonight.